Robert Plank Show, episode 286: How to Build Huge Product Lines on Amazon and Flip FBA Businesses with Sophie Howard. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the show. Our guest today is Sophie Howard, and Sophie is based in New Zealand, and she runs several 6- and 7-figure Amazon businesses in the US, UK, and Europe. Sophie sold one US Amazon account in mid-2016 for over 7 figures USD. She developed the minimum viable brand for physical products to be sold online at premium prices and scale fast. She loves sourcing products from around the world, usually in places where no one else is looking. And Sophie founded Product University to share what is working on Amazon and other platforms for physical products, with a focus on building skills and confidence for smart, scalable businesses that can be run from anywhere in the world. And if you guys want to follow along while we're talking, go to aspiringentrepreneurs.org/membership. So Sophie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Robert. Great to be here.
I'm glad that you're here, and this I think it's a sign that we're supposed to be doing this interview together, because Product University, that is the name that me and my business partner used to use for our live events. So, I mean, perfect timing, right?
Oh, really? When I Googled it and did my trademark checks and things, I didn't find anybody else's, but I was maybe only looking at live ones. But interesting. Good name.
Maybe. I mean,
Great.
Yeah, like we've owned the .com for about 10 years, but we haven't done a live event in a couple of years, so maybe it's dropped off a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't got the URL. I just added on to my Aspiring Entrepreneurs site. So it's kind of the members area within Aspiring Entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Well, there you go. But it was meant to be anyway, I think. So cool. So minimum viable brand and Amazon and FBA. So what about FBA sort of has you excited, and what about FBA makes you stand out?
Well, I love FBA. There's a lot of people that grump and grizzle about Amazon and their fees, but being based in New Zealand, a long way from the market, and with young children and limited hours, the convenience and reach of Amazon as a place to sell your products is just unbeatable. And even now I've swatted up on far fancier things in the world of e-commerce, I still think it's definitely the best place to start and launch any physical product, pretty much, for most categories anyway. And so I just love those free eyeballs. You don't get that anywhere else, where people are so ready to shop. It's so easy to know what search terms are. There's not kind of that guesswork about interests or demographics. It's all about the search, which makes it really analytical. In some ways, if you've got the right product, managing that launch and managing your listing, there's a bit more of a science to it. And say something like, I don't know, content marketing or blogging or something like that, you can do so much work out and not really know the numbers or the return on that investment of time. Whereas Amazon and FBA is just so neat and so scalable. So I've had one VA run the whole show for me for pretty much the last 3 years. I'm really hands off. And if it was a more technical platform, or if it didn't have the reach or the international expansion, you'd sort of run out of space to play. But there's just so much space there on Amazon and FBA, so I love that. And the second half of your question was about the tricky bits. Obviously, the fees creep up, and there are costs to doing business on Amazon. There's definitely the changing of policies and things, but I've always played it really straight. So that policy around the reviewers didn't affect me at all, because I don't ever buy reviews and never did. And I've never been hijacked. I've never had listings blocked by Amazon. I've never had accounts closed or anything like that, because I don't choose the kind of products that everyone else is squabbling over and playing dirty games around. So I kind of have this quiet, sort of uninterrupted space, sort of in the lower rankings with lots and lots of products. And that strategy's really worked for me.
Awesome. So you're saying that you kind of go wide instead of deep. You sell lots and lots of products that maybe don't fly off the shelves super quick, but because you have so many, that adds up to a lot.
Exactly. And I don't really want to have something that sells 100 units a day, because you just instantly, with all these tools out there that people can track other sellers' metrics, you've just got a target on your back. As soon as you're selling at that level, people will be coming in to copy you. And I also like to build a brand which isn't therefore going to be being a copycat. My strategy isn't to get a percentage of somebody else's market share where they're a leader. I kind of want to be that leader. So I'll go off sort of doing some kind of pioneering idea about a new idea for a brand, for a new niche, and I'll develop a bunch of products, usually under one umbrella brand, And it'll be slow start for sure. Like it'll be, drumming up the business through some Facebook ads sometimes, or it might just be really low level traffic on Amazon, but I get most of that traffic. Like there's not as much competition for it. And so I'm really happy to have, 50 products doing a few units a day, and that really adds up. And also you're not just getting the revenue from your sales that way, you're kind of building brands and you're out at the forefront of that niche. You're the only one doing a really good job most of the time. And then you're kind of on the radar, like those bloggers or those other companies in those sectors. You might be the only person doing a decent job of online sales in that entire sector. So if you can find a little niche like that that's a little bit old school and not being done well in an e-commerce way, start an Amazon brand, then you can have a really, really good exit a few years later if you can find one of those companies that wants to kind of buy up that e-commerce model and bolt it onto their big, boring business. So that sort of building a brand means that you've got the cash flow from your sales, but also you're building an asset, and that's what really excites me. So that business I sold last year was 7 figures. I've got another Amazon account going on the market probably next week. Just finished the prospectus and got it valued, and that's about to go live. It's with the designer now, and that'll be multiple 6 figures. And that's an 18-month-old account. The 7-figure one was an 18-month-old account, and they're just really attractive to other people because they're so low maintenance, they're low tech, and they're bringing in a new stream of customers for a product that the big brands don't really get. So that's pretty fun.
Awesome. So, and it sounds like, so this is sort of like your business model is to create these brands and create these Amazon accounts that have a lot of products and are like just selling pretty like slowly but consistently, but like a lot all the time. And then you set them up to sell so you get that big payday.
Yeah, those lump sum paydays, that's what kind of makes me more excited now. So I used to always sort of be hitting refresh on the sales of my Amazon Seller Central account to see what my daily sales were and how I was tracking month on month. And now I've sort of stepped back from that level and I'm just kind of looking at building assets and thinking strategically, like what brands could I build next? Like which suppliers would give me access to 20 or 50 or 100 products so that I can really scale fast and get sort of that traction, because it's not, once you've got some kind of synergy with a bunch of brands that overlap or in a related area, the amount of work to do each launch isn't as much. You get quite a lot of efficiency. And especially if you're just dealing with one supplier and your supply chain's pretty neat, you can kind of be launching products really fast. And I think that's the main mistake people make on Amazon. They're just not launching enough products. And I know it gets really hard with cash flow. Like if you're doing well with one product, you kind of need all your cash to stay in stock and keep up with the demand. It's quite lumpy. But if you can find a supplier that can keep quietly adding new products with each extra order that comes through, just add another 5 products here and there through an existing supplier, or have a wish list and just chip away at adding those new ones whenever you can afford to add a new one, even if it's really small order quantities. That's just how you grow that revenue stream and the asset. So it's harder work. It's much easier to sit on and watch what you've already done. But really, like 80% of the effort, I think, should be on the new stuff. And then outsource and automate that back end, which is, the pay-per-click ads, the customer service, the setting up shipments of reorders of products, all that kind of stuff. There's great people out there willing to do that VA work. I've had a really, really good team. And just doesn't make sense as the business owner to get too tied up in that stuff and hitting refresh. You should just be pushing on with the new ones and growing, because if you're not growing on Amazon, you're actually going backwards because everyone else is chasing the people doing well. So there's new people coming on. There's successful sellers with cash to burn looking at other products that they could do. And so you really just need to keep at it, which is hard work, but that's kind of the fun bit, I think. I kind of like that creative front end piece, and I get a bit bored once I'm looking at 6,000 lines of pay-per-click reports. Right. So, that's what's been working for me, and I really enjoy it, and I've built a really good lifestyle out of it. So I love the travel and the adventure of going off sourcing products in interesting places. I do some of it in person, most of it online, but some in person. And it's certainly not full time. Got young children and don't want to be a slave to a business or a job, want to have a kind of a lifestyle out of it, and it's definitely done that.
Awesome. Well, you're definitely living the dream. So you mentioned a couple things that I'm sort of curious about. So you mentioned that you keep mentioning that you have like 20 or 50 or sometimes 100 different products in the same brand that you're selling on Amazon, and it sounded like sort of the way that you worded it was that you go to a supplier and you get like one, I don't know, like one sort of sports equipment thing made, or like one backpack or something made, and then that supplier has other similar products, and you can just kind of plug into those other products. So is that sort of on the right track? Like, you like to go to a supplier and get their other products, or do you go to multiple suppliers, or kind of what's your system there?
I do quite like one supplier who I know can come up with lots and lots of good stuff. So one of the more recent brands I launched on day one, we went live with 88 new SKUs on Amazon. So that was quite a logisticsy week getting that sorted. But then it wasn't actually that hard to run. And it was kind of like a bit of an experiment. Like, not all 88 were going to fly, but it wasn't all that much more expensive to launch 88 than, say, 20. And we then had like this really complete looking brand. We did all the packaging, which wasn't that much extra work, just to change the names of the products under the same packaging design. The supplier didn't really increase the price for the extra admin of doing that many products. And in fact, often if there's a supplier with an MOQ, so they've said your minimum order quantity needs to be, say, 1,000 units, and they've got 2 or 3 styles of something you quite like, they might let you do 2 or 300 of 2 or 3 or 4 styles. They can be a bit flexible on that. Like, they've got sales targets, but often if they've got something in stock or that's easy to modify, they'll let you do those mixed first orders, which I quite like because it helps you have more chance of finding a winner, and it makes you look like you've got a complete brand early on, and it just gives you that extra spread, some extra keywords, some extra kind of real estate on page 1 of the Amazon search results. So I sometimes do parent-child listings, but I do quite like just having that sort of smother page 1 of the search results. Like, I don't do brands that compete with each other. Like, I don't tend to do like a premium version and a budget version excuse me, of a product just so I kind of cover more bases. I tend to do all premium, but I would do different styles or different flavors or different colors or something. Different colors I might do as parent-child listings to keep them kind of together, because that really is one product with variations. But I do try and have lots of variety within each brand and lots of options for customers. And then it means that something more sophisticated later. So say you've got a product with a few dozen different types within it, a few different options that customers can choose from. Then with all that stock, you can actually create a subscription box or something. If you wanted to get fancy a few months or a year later, you could have a subscription box that goes out every month to people that love that type of product, and you send them a different type each month on a subscription basis. And that's really easy because you've got all the product, it's all created. It's just then a bit of a logistics job boxing it up and shipping it out. And if you think that an Amazon business is pretty neat, and an Amazon business is worth maybe 3 times the net profit, between 2 and 3 times the net profit for a year's sales. A subscription box business is times 10 or 12 times your net profit for the year, just because that future cash flow is so certain, and that income is going to keep rolling each month. So that's quite easy to develop when you've got a brand with lots of products. But these kind of one-trick pony accounts terrify me. I have lots of people coming to me for coaching who've had a really good run, and they can see that their star product's starting to tail off, and they're getting a bit nervous. They've seen cheap competition, or even Chinese sellers who might be the original manufacturers selling, and you just can't compete on price with the original manufacturer. Just, that's a losing game. Got no point of difference, no cost advantage, no IP to protect. There's nothing there. And so that's when people start to kind of wake up and think a bit about, eek, all my eggs are in one basket, one product, or one handful of products on one platform, could be gone overnight. So that's when people want to come and work with, say, Product University. They want to learn about how to find their ideal customers on Facebook. And rather than the promotions being around giveaways to spike the ranking, the promotions are promoting the benefits of the product to the ideal customer who's going to pay full price for it from day one. So that's quite a different approach as well.
Awesome. And yes, it sounds like there are just a bunch of ways in Amazon to get kind of knocked out. And so, yeah, I can totally relate. If someone is only selling one product on Amazon, and then any of those things happen, then they're totally screwed over. But then if they have it spread out, sort of the risk is more, in different things. So if like one product gets sort of knocked out, or the sales slow down, or competition or whatever, then there are 49 other products that are still there. And so I can totally see all the advantages to having that subscription box and having the variants and sort of all that cool stuff, and sort of to make sure that everyone kind of understands and follows along. Are you comfortable with like sharing like maybe like a past case study or something of your thought process where you said, okay, well, I'm going to make product number one, and then the supplier has other similar stuff? Like, can you kind of walk us through maybe like an old case study like that or something like that?
I'm just trying to think if I've got a case study I can share. The big account I sold last year, I've got a confidentiality agreement on that. I'll see if I can quickly think up a hypothetical example that isn't one that I'm working on myself. But just before I think of one, just one thing that was crossing my mind when you were talking about that sort of shift away from having just one Amazon product up, and like the risks with that, is that it's kind of also how you spend your time in a day. Like once you've got a product selling, you've then got some cash coming in, you've probably got the means to hire a VA, and then like you might have a day job or some other commitments in life, but like the time that you spend on your business, what's that time best spent on? And it reminded me to mention this, that just that learning is so important, and where you get your new knowledge from. So the Amazon Facebook groups can be a little bit insular, and the sky is falling if Amazon changes a policy. I mean, it's great if you need a quick technical answer, like where does this thing live in a menu, or who's had experience of this type of email coming through for you. So it's good for that kind of technical support. But I think some people look to those little Facebook groups as kind of the source of inspiration for how they're going to run their Amazon businesses, and they can just be a little bit narrow-minded. And so thinking a bit more about upskilling in general business can be one of the best ways to keep your kind of head above the water when things get messy on Amazon. Like you've got other skills and you've invested a bit in learning and upskilling so that you're not completely dependent on Amazon. You've seen how dropshipping could work for you, or how Facebook could work for you, or how a subscription box could, help you massively scale your business, but also diversify the risk. It's kind of future-proofing your business while you're also growing revenue, while you're also learning really new, transferable, really in-demand skills. So I just think it's a really high priority to keep at the forefront of all of e-commerce, not just be totally invested in Amazon only. So that was just my little aside about the importance of learning. I'm still trying to think of a good example. So say you were going to do coffee. I don't do coffee. You might launch with, you might spend quite a bit brainstorming with a really good designer. Like I don't get Fiverr designers doing a Photoshop job. I actually go to a really good designer, someone, the person I use has got a fine arts degree, super talented, work doing commercial stuff, but really kind of arty, like really loves the creative side, isn't just churning out designs for a job, like actually lives and breathes the design world. So she and I'll brainstorm ideas, like thinking about the target market. We'll look at some of the other brands that do well, not necessarily on Amazon. Like I'll look in the fanciest gourmet stores. I'll see which brands Whole Foods Market stock. I'll see who Fortnum and Mason in London stocks, which is where the Queen gets her groceries from. Which brands are in Harrods? Which brands are in all the top stores? When you Google premium coffee or the world's best coffee brand or something, like what comes up, and what do those brands look like? Are they kind of monochrome and hipster and cool, or are they all colourful and Guatemalan and exotic about the history of the the location that the coffee's grown? Or like what's the branding of the top brands, and how's their messaging coming across? What's their look and feel? What are their taglines and straplines on their website? What does we'll look on Facebook, what's their demographic, what gender, what age group, which states are consuming this product, what's happening on their Facebook page, what's happening on their website. When I order that product, what's the experience like what comes through to me as a consumer? So that's the kind of stuff we do before any product choice. And then we would think of things like names and possible logos and designs, and like the kind of the personality of that brand and the avatar of that customer. And then we would go, right, so the group we're going to go after likes cold drip coffee, or what else? They might really like some of these different types of coffee plungers and brewing apparatus, and we'll look at these three countries to source the coffee. And then, because you're not going to actually smell or taste the coffee, a lot of it's just is so down to packaging and the story. So just how eye-catching your packaging is when you think you've got a thumbnail on a white background on Amazon, some really kind of minimalist black and white thing with some skinny font. Nobody might read that on a cell phone looking at the image on a Facebook ad or on an Amazon image. So something really bold, like big bold letters or a big bold logo that's really distinctive. And then we would find suppliers. Like, I would quite like to go and visit Guatemala or Ethiopia, or countries that do these fantastic coffee beans, and so I'd look for Arabica beans rather than the cheaper, lower grade ones. I'd want, say, single estate rather than blended. Like, I would go absolutely top end from day one. Like, must be organic, must be fair trade, all these things that can make it absolutely the premium offering. I wouldn't do coffee, by the way, because it's so competitive. But this is just like an example kind of case study. So then I would go out to a supplier who can help me source, say, 10 different types of coffee with different grinds. And then I might find a supplier that can do grinders and cups and hardware for preparing coffee. And then I would set up a Facebook page and do some kind of coffee content around that, just to start building a bit of a presence and explaining what the brand's about and why it's different. And it has to be different. It can't just be muscling your way in for a share of somebody else's keyword traffic and winning because you're a little bit cheaper, because that's just kind of a race to the bottom. So anything that comes out of a Chinese factory that you can find on AliExpress or Alibaba in 3 clicks, someone else can find you in 3 clicks in a few weeks when they see that you're doing well. So I like things that are hard to source. And I think I get my products, last count, I think it's 6 countries I source from, but not very much from China. I definitely like that kind of homemade or homegrown or, slightly more unusual products. They've worked really well for me. I do have some stuff from China. I just always know that if it's doing particularly well, someone else will be onto me. And the value of that brand's far reduced because of the fact there's no real innovation or intellectual property there. It's just, its only value is the speed that I'm churning through the stock that I'm buying and selling. It's not really a big asset. So going back to the coffee thing, I'd find, say, 6 different varieties of coffee bean. I'd have some awesome packaging. I might do some small samples that I could use as like a giveaway to start letting serious coffee tasters do a tasting, or I might get a list of the top cafes and, see if baristas want to do something, some kind of contest or some sample, send to them and follow up. So there's a little bit more manual labor there. Then it launches on Amazon, but you've done a lot of the pre-work to build the brand first.
Okay.
And then you're not kind of coming in completely cold. So that's not really the best example because coffee is super competitive. But say you had a much more niche-y kind of product that's a little bit more obscure. There might be like a handful of thought leaders in that industry that could help you with your launch because they're so excited that someone's actually doing a decent job and has really thought about them rather than just another Me Too product. So I always like some proper innovation or something really well done with the branding to make it stand out.
Yeah, and I can totally get that because, like, if you think about it, like, there'll be like, like a camping brand and like a bunch of like, different camping stuff, like a pot or like a flashlight or stuff like that, or there'll be like, kitchen brands or bathroom brands, and so that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, like coffee isn't like the best example, but even when you say coffee, like I can think of like I can picture like a handful of different coffee brands, and they're either like at least in America I'm thinking like they're like red or brown or like that greenish brown, or even like there's a brand of coffee called Death Wish, and they have a giant skull and crossbones, and they run Facebook ads, and they have a Facebook page where they have lots of cool like coffee facts, and their sort of unique selling proposition there is that I think they have like 3 times the caffeine as normal coffee. That's why it's like called like Death Wish. And so I can totally get and I imagine that they probably sell more than just coffee. They probably sell some sort of a brewer, and I think they sell their coffee in like Keurig cup form. So I can totally get like your thought process there in any sort of niche, not just coffee, but I can totally get how like your thought process, like looking at the different like competitors and what kind of like edge can I have to be seen as the premium version of that, and looking at the different colors and designs, and also what sort of product line you can create from that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So coffee, although I wouldn't do it, as I've just said, because it's super competitive and pretty crowded in there, but it's got some really big pluses. Like people that are real like coffee drinkers, it's kind of part of their identity. It's not just like another grocery supply. Like they love that coffee, and they would probably quite proudly wear, that Skull and Crossbones logo T-shirt to show the world that they like that strong coffee. Like it's more than just a consumable. It's like part of who they are, and so like that means printed mugs or hoodies or, clothing or posters or anything like that, that kind of some of those lifestyle products that go with the brand then become another source of revenue as well. And it really builds your brand, and the whole thing feeds off each other. And the other good thing about coffee, of course, is that it's a consumable. So it's, replenished each month. It lets you have that subscription box or subscribe and save on Amazon at the very least as an option. And then that just massively increases the value of your business when you've got that recurring revenue coming in each month. Just on the colors as well, there's some really interesting psychology. You can look at psychology of colors, and there's all these like color wheels that for different demographics, for different types of products, there's some kind of colors that make sense for consumers. So like if you're looking at kind of products for grandmothers, it's quite sort of purple. Some of it's a bit easy to guess, but like the psychology of the colors you use is really important. And then, of course, thinking about it's on Amazon on a quite small thumbnail, but just like so much is won and lost on that sort of initial reaction that customers see when they see that image of the packaging on Amazon against all the other competitors. So you really need to stand out and be memorable and be legible and have a brand name that people can remember and spell, and just make it really distinctive.
Awesome, and I like your thought process with that, and not just how, if you can have a product that's consumable, that way they'll need to keep buying more and more, but also if you can have something that sort of is plays to someone's identity, so that way they'll want to, if you have like a certain logo, then they'll want to have like the coffee mug with that, and the T-shirt and the hoodie and all that kind of cool stuff. And so we're starting to run out of time, but one thing I want to make sure that we get to is so once you have your Amazon store selling, and you have these products, and you have everything optimized and everything's kind of rocking and rolling, you like to then set these companies up to be sold. And you mentioned at the top of the hour when we started talking about how like you do certain things, like you have a prospectus in place. So I mean, once someone first of all, when is it time to sell, or is it always the time? And then what steps should someone take in order to sell an Amazon business?
Okay, so this is my favorite subject.
Awesome.
I'm really, really excited about this stuff. So I've sold both of mine sort of not before the 18-month mark. I think the buyers would like to see kind of a full cycle of sales over a whole year, because, one quarter four might be a bit misleading. And one whole year, there's a few scrappy months at the start while everything's getting launched. I actually haven't sold companies. I've sold the Amazon account as an asset. So somebody basically, and Amazon's cool with this now. They didn't used to be quite so clear on how this transfer works, but it's fine now. So you basically can hand over your Amazon account. So, give me $1 million and I'll tell you the password. It's not quite that simple, but it's not far off. So if a buyer is getting financed, they need to see at least a year's worth of tax returns and things, just so that the bank that's financing them is satisfied that it's a legitimate business making money. I like the net profit to be at least $100,000 for the year minimum, but ideally higher than that, of course. But once it gets to, say, a valuation into the seven figures, there's a much smaller pool of buyers. So when I look on some of the other business sale websites now, there's a lot of Amazon accounts there, but lots that are a bit sort of small that I wouldn't, not for me, but I'm not buying. But there's lots that look a bit too small to be steady or certain, just like a little bit early. And then there's not too many big ones. But then, once you're over $1 million, it's less likely to be an individual or a couple, buying it as retirement income. It's more likely to be kind of a private equity group, and then their due diligence is pretty full on. So I think kind of like the high sixes is a good number to be kind of getting for your valuation. And a year or maybe 2 years old. And I think you need to have, done the basics really well, like building customer lists, decent branding, trademarks, Facebook, some good social media presence. So I've got, lots of thousands of people on the Facebook groups for these brands I'm selling now. Not massively active, but there and ready to be, developed further. So just having the building blocks in place and also making it really attractive as a business to business sale. So rather than another Amazon FBA buying it, could you pitch this to the big brands in this industry and say, here's an Amazon account you can bolt on. You probably don't have this type of customer in your business now. Here's a whole new premium brand that you could bolt onto your other business, and it's new revenue, and you're sort of taking out one of your competitors who's kind of an indirect competitor, but it's new money for them. So for that to happen, it needs to be obviously run really professionally. There needs to be operations manuals and clear processes and good agreements with suppliers, good agreements with the VAs or whoever's running the day-to-day. But we just have all our documents in Dropbox. I followed a template for the prospectus that my broker's used lots. He's great. And if anyone wants to drop me an email, I can share who that is. And so selling the business is awesome. Like, that's just the lump sums that are life changers. So when I sold my last business, we went off as a family to Bali in Indonesia for 3 months and lived there and went surfing and did yoga every day for 3 months. And then since then, we've moved house. So my husband's now quit his job as well. And we've just moved to this little town. It's like a resort town. It's kind of like Aspen somewhere. It's a ski town in the South Island of New Zealand called Wanaka. Like, the average house price here is $1 million, over $1 million now. And there's not a job in town. Like, unless you're going to be operating a ski lift or serving coffee, like, there's not a job in this town. So we're kind of fully committed to a life online, which is cool. But like, we would never have done that without that lump sum. Like, that would have been a bit nervy just running on Amazon revenue to make a move as big as that. So the whole thing that drives me to work hard and build these businesses is kind of lifestyle. I don't want to run an empire. I don't want an enormous team. I don't want to be working 60-hour weeks. I want to pick my kids up from school and play every afternoon. And I've got a horse. I want to ride my horse. I want to walk the dog. I want to have holidays. So I'm really focused on like the profitability and having a really smart little scalable system for these brands, and then being able to sell them, and just keeping the focus of my time on the stuff that's growing the businesses, not being too busy in the businesses. And that's such a trap. And until you're making a bit of profit, it is scary hiring help, but there's such good help at such low cost. And you don't need to hire people full time. You can do really casual hours, really flexi, put the effort into training them up and building a really good relationship. And actually, the next month in Product University is all about building your virtual dream team. So we have a different theme for each month. We've just finished sales funnels in March. February, we did product selection strategy, because that's such an important part of a successful Amazon or any product business selling online. We did mindset and strategy in January. And then each month we basically move through a different topic. But virtual teams are super important in this game. So that's what we're covering in April.
Awesome stuff. And so you mentioned a couple of times that you have this Product University. And so where can people go to find that? And where can people go to find out about whatever it is else you have to sell?
Okay, so Product University is on my site, Aspiring Entrepreneurs, which hopefully you can pop in the show notes. But if you Google Aspiring Entrepreneurs, and it's the URL's aspiringentrepreneurs.org. So that's my kind of consulting, coaching company, and Product University's, I think, the best value thing that you can do. It's really low cost per month. You don't need to sign up for a year or anything. It's a very nice bonus if you do sign up for a year. We're giving away a $5,000 Amazon Navigator course, which was my flagship Amazon training program. So there's the Amazon Navigator, is a video-based course sort of to do in your own time. But Product University is me live every week doing a webinar, teaching and sharing what's working in different areas of e-commerce for selling physical products online. So whether it's subscription boxes, Amazon, how to do good email marketing, how to do Facebook ads, how to build a sales funnel without going mad, sourcing, teams, virtual teams, all sorts. We cover pretty much everything you need to know. So it's kind of the skills, but also a lot about the confidence to try these things out in a little way rather than getting overwhelmed by them being really big and technical. Most of the things that you need to do online now, there's so many good tools and bits of software and models to use. Like something like a sales funnel used to be a nightmare to build, but now there's awesome software like ClickFunnels and other things to just copy and paste your content in, and there's pre-built, well-optimized funnels, and Facebook ads are getting easier to use, and still are super targeted. Just amazing that we can target such specific customer types so cost effectively. It's just brilliant. So these are really core skills. If you're in a products business, whether you're just on Amazon now or you've been doing drop shipping or something, there's a lot to learn about e-commerce and to stay at the forefront of what's working and who's doing what and how to do it. So it's very practical. And that's what I do in Product University. So that's every Friday New Zealand time, kind of. It's usually Thursday afternoon or evening in the States, Thursday night in the UK. And yeah, that's just sort of where to stay current and up to date. And it's good fun. It's a nice community. And we do lots of learning and sharing and keeping up to speed with what's working.
Awesome stuff. So sounds like a great community. Sounds like lots of cool stuff shared there. And I like how every month you choose kind of a different area to focus. So everyone should go right now to aspiringentrepreneurs.org and check out what Sophie has there for you. She has a free Amazon mini course. She has that coaching one-to-one stuff. There's that university you can join. Lots of cool stuff. So aspiringentrepreneurs.org is the place where everyone should go right now. And Sophie, thanks so much for sharing all that Amazon advice and this whole idea of building up an Amazon business and then selling it to someone else who wants to grow their brand. Sounds like a way cooler way of making money and way less stressful than sort of trying to ride the ups and downs of Amazon and who knows what kind of rules they're putting in place. Just build up the business, sell it to someone, have them take care of it. Sounds like an awesome business model. So thanks for hopping on and share what you had to share with us today.
Thanks, Robert. It's great to chat with you.
Thanks for listening to today's program. Start from the beginning or view past episodes at robertplank.com/episodes.